Okay, welcome all. Welcome to this lab of advanced Java programming. So today what we will do is today we will be seeing some more uh, code of advanced Java programming in order to learn specifically revised Java. Okay. So let me show the disclaimer first. Okay. So let me start with the session and let me show you one question, guys. Tell me what will be the output of this particular program? Yes, what could be the output of this particular program? Yes, so the questions are given in front of you. What would be the output? Check it out and you can reply into the chat box. Yes, so this is a program where a class is there, test, which has got two protected variables x and y, and in a main class, in a class called main, we are having a main method where we are trying to create its object, and then we are trying to access its protected variables t.x and t.y. We are trying to print those. So what would be the output? Would it be garbage value, error, or zero, or none of the above? Yes, come on, tell me, guys. So we'll go program by program and see what is the output. Yes, yes, can anyone say? Okay, no issue. So the answer is 0 0. It will give you 0 0. Whenever this object is created, it will have a default value, right? It will have default, this instance variables will be having default values, okay, x and y. And since these are protected, these can be accessed as instance variables, okay. This can be extra accessed as instance variables, okay, but at least inside the same package. Okay, so here the same package is there, both the classes are in same package, so that's why we are able to convert it. Okay, now yes, so we have the second question, right, where we have specifically this question. Okay, this, check this out. What is this program doing? This program has a main method where basically it has got a loop which starts from I is value equal to 0, and inside the condition it is giving 1. Okay, and I increments by 1, and inside the loop it says system.out.println hello. It prints hello and then says break. So what will happen? It will print hello and then break out, or it will print hello infinite times and will overflow the stack, or it will give the compiler error, or none of the above. Yes, can anyone say what would be the answer of this? Yes, guys. Okay, Prince and Hita are saying compiler error. Yes, that's right, compiler error is that, because what happens is that this specifically here the one that you are saying in the condition, that is not allowed. Java is strictly type language, so it does not allow 1 to be true and 0 to be false. It requires true wherever true is required and false wherever false is. So it requires boolean types only and not integer types. It does not convert these integer types into boolean types. That's the reason. Okay, int cannot be converted to boolean. Fine. Now let me show you another program. In this program, we have a package main where we have class base, where there is a print method which prints base. Then we have derived class which extends base. Okay, and also it has got a print method which prints derived. Then we have a main class in the main in that same package, and we have a static void do print method. Okay, we have a static void, public static void do print method, and which accesses base object, which takes base object as a parameter. A base object is passed to it, and its print method is called o.print. Okay, and then in the main method of this main class, what do we do is we create an object of base class. We say base x equal to new base, and then we also create an object of derived class. But what do we do is we specifically assign a superclass reference variable to point to it. So y is a superclass reference variable, that is base class variable, whereas the object is a derived object, which is a subclass. Okay, object, which is object is belongs to subclass. So now what happens is, let's see what we do. Okay. So now we also have a third object called derived. Okay, z, which is exactly of type derived. So we have basically here, what do we have? We over here have three objects. One object is of type x is of type base. Then another object is that we have over here is y, which is of type derived, but y basically points to derived object, but the type of y is base. The reference variable is of base. And then we have the third object specifically of z, which is of type derived only, and the reference variable is also same. So this is the type of reference variable. And here, if the reference variable type is not specified, then assume that both the object and reference variable types are same. Okay, in this x and z. So now what do? We call do print. That is this particular method. And then we pass this base object to it. Okay, so this x object is passed. So x is a base object. So yes, it can be passed. This is valid. So this valid statement is there. So obviously base will be printed first, right? Then what happens? Then you say do print y, do print z. So what will be printed over here? Tell me. What will be printed over here? Now what do? Once you pass x, then you pass y. What is a y? Y is of type base. So yes, this will work. This will work. Okay. But the object is of type derived. Object is of type derived. So when you call this o.print, obviously this o.print doesn't go over here. No, that o.print goes over here and it prints derived, right? And then you third you call is do print z. Now, is this possible? Won't this give any error? Yes, guys, tell me. Is the thing possible? Yes. Is this thing possible? Is this last line possible? Yes. Yes or no? Please let me know. I'm watching out the chat box. You can put it in the chat box. Yes, guys, tell me whether this is possible or not. Yes, guys, I'm watching out the chat box. You can put your message inside the chat box. Please put your message in the box. Is this thing possible? Is this line possible? Do print Z. Tell me, guys. Is this line possible? Will this work? What will be the output of this program? These are some of the questions I'm asking. Please let me know in the chat box. I'm watching over the chat box. Yep. Tell me, is this line possible? Okay. My answer would be yes, this is possible. Why this is possible? Why is this line possible? Because here you can see, here on this line, the reference variable, that is the left hand side, that is the reference variable, okay, that is of base class, and the right hand side, that is the right hand side is the right hand side is the object, okay, which is of what? Derived class. So I think yesterday we saw one example called as, this was called as object polymorphism, right? We saw one thing called as object polymorphism. So this means the left hand side is of superclass and the right hand side is of subclass. So what is left hand side? Left hand side is the reference variable which belongs to superclass, and right hand side is the object created. So that belongs to subclass. So that is possible. This is called as object polymorphism. Okay. And that's why if the object polymorphism works over here, then it should work over here also. Because here what is happening? Here nothing is happening. Here an assignment is happening. This is something like this. If you write it in the form of a code, it will be something like this. This base O is being assigned the value of Z. And what is Z? Z is an object of derived type. So here also left hand side is superclass, reference variable, right hand side is the object of subclass, which is equivalent to this line. Okay, so this is possible. So what will it print? Tell me, what will it print? Obviously this X will print what? This X will print base, then Y. Y is a base class object, but it points to the derived class. The reference is a base class, but the object is of derived class. So it will obviously print what? Derived. And then what does it print for this Z? There also it prints derived. Okay, that's the output. Okay, base, derived. That's the output. You can see the output: base, derived, and derived. Okay, so here is the output. Okay, so now this is the one more question, program number 4. Tell me, what is this? How does this output come? Yes. Yes, tell me, what is the output of this? What will be the output of this particular program? See, what happens over here is, let me try to explain you. Here, basically, in this main method, what we are doing is, we are creating a string ABC, and S2 is pointing to that ABC string, right? And then we say S1 is equal to S1 plus D. So this ABC becomes D. So see what happens is basically here, so this is about strings. Okay, so please refer this properly. So this is one kind of stack. What is this? This is a stack, a method stack. For which method? For main method. For every method, there will be a stack. Okay. So for this main method, this is the stack, which stores all the variables inside it. And then what you have is other part is a big object heap. This is as called as object heap. This is a location, memory location area where all your objects are stored. So what happens is when you say S1 is equal to ABC, so this S1 gets stored over here, S1 is there, and there is an object, a string object gets created, which basically has ABC inside it, and this S1 points to that particular ABC. Okay. Now what happens when you say S2 is equal to S1, so this S2 also gets stored over here inside the stack, and S2 also points to the same object. But when you say S1 is equal to S1 plus D, right? So what happens? A new object gets created. Because of this operation, concatenation operator, a new object gets created. And this link no longer works. Instead, S1 starts pointing to this object. S1 starts pointing to this object now. Okay. That is because of this particular line. Then you say system.println and print these two and check whether these are correct or not. Obviously, these won't be correct because one's value is ABC, another's value is ABCD. Right? Why this happens? Why this thing happens? Because strings are immutable. The original string cannot be changed. A new string will be created. Okay. Whenever you do some operation on a string, a new string will be created because original strings do not change. Strings are immutable. Then what you do is make a string buffer object, ABC. So now this on this stack, let me make it a blue color. This is SB1 and this is SB2. So now there will be an object which will have the value ABC and will be pointed by this SB1. Okay. And now when you say SB2 is equal to SB1, obviously SB2 also points to the same object. And when you say SB1 dot append B, so what happens is this particular object gets accessed. And here you get to have a D. This is how this object is created. Since D is appended in the same object. So now if you compare both are same since both are pointing to the same object only currently, right? So output is something like this. First is ABCD ABC false, second is ABCD ABCD true. Understand, guys? Any question in this? Please let me know. I'm watching over the chat box. Okay. Okay. Now, let me ask one more question for this. This question basically is for this program. Check this program. Here what we are doing is, here we are creating a program called class called first, which has a constructor which prints A. Then we have this class called second, which extends first and has a constructor second which prints B. And then we have a class called third, which extends second and its constructor prints C. And then in main class, we create the object of this third class. Yes, class third's object is made. So what will be the output? Yes, guys, tell me what will be the output of this program? Can you say? Please put it in the chat box. What will be the output? Dhruval and Hita has said ABC. Okay. Anyone has to say anything else? Any other manner possible? Is it possible to do in any other manner? Yes. Okay, so Dhruval and Hita, your answers are right. That's correct. What will happen is, basically see this thing. Whenever you say new third, this whenever this constructor is invoked, what happens is from here the control will go to this new third, this third constructor. So whenever this constructor is invoked, the control will go to constructor, and it will first see that we have to print C. But before doing that, there is a small code inserted by the compiler over here, and that code is super. By default, this code is always inserted by the compiler unless and until you specifically insert it. If you insert it, then it won't be inserted. So now from here what happens is it will automatically call the superclass constructor. Who is the superclass of third? Second. So the direct superclass, that constructor is called, and the control enters over here. Here also again super is added by the compiler, right? So the superclass constructor, who is the superclass constructor of second? First. So from here also the control goes, and then it sees, okay, there is again a super added over here, and this super goes to the object class. This is a super class of, okay. So from here the super goes to there. From there it will return, and so this will execute first. Then from there it will return. Then this will execute second. Again from there it will return, and this will execute third. And so the output is basically A, B, and C. And this sequence, the output comes. You see that? Okay. So that's right, Dhruval and Hita, you are correct. Okay. What is the output of, what will be the output of this particular program? Yes, can you say? This is suppose class I, where we are using an array list. We are using an array list. We are saying object I is equal to new array list iterator. So here we are using instance of operator. What is this? First we take iterator and take that iterator object into I from an array list, and then we check whether that's an instance of list, whether there's an instance of iterator, or there is an instance of list iterator. So the result will be specifically false, true, and false. Why? Because this is not an instance of list. It is an instance of iterator. You are getting an iterator object. You are not getting an array list object. So that gives you false. Then you check I instance of iterator. Yes, it is an instance of iterator, so it gives you true. And then you check whether it's an instance of list iterator. It says no, so you get false. See that? Okay. So in this way, this program executes. Okay. So what will be the output of this particular program? Yes. Any guess? What will be the output of this particular program? Here we have threadx class which extends thread and then it implements, sorry, overrides the run method. Since it has overridden this run method, the run method of thread is overridden, and this run method will be called when we say start, when we invoke start on the object of this thread ex. What do we say? We say thread ex t1 equal to new thread ex, and then we say t1 dot start, t1 dot stop, and then we again say t1 dot start. So is this thing possible? Okay. Yes. See, here the thing is that multiple threads are normally executed, right? And what happens is that if multiple threads are there on a particular object, then they are executed once at least for each and every thread. But if single thread is there, then it's not possible to execute it multiple times. Okay. So single thread, if they are executed multiple times, then it gives you runtime exception. Okay. Because what happens is here you are starting the thread, you stopped it, so that thread's life has ended. Now, if you again try to start it, this will give you a runtime exception. It will throw what? Runtime exception. Okay. Check this out. This is an example. Here, what I'm doing is here I'm saying Java, and I'm trying to load it. Okay, it gives. Check this out. It when I try to run it, when I try to run it with this line, Java cp my Java minus cp dot slash thread ex. So I'm trying to run thread ex class from the current directory, and there I'm able to find that it is showing illegal thread state exception. What is it showing? It is showing me illegal thread state exception. Okay, see that? If you don't use that start, it will work properly. If we just remove that start, it will simply say process completed. You can see process completed is printed. Okay. Check this out. What happens if we use some different things over here? Like for example, I started. I try to print. Now see what I'm doing is here I am starting the thread. So as soon as it starts, the control goes to this. One thread goes to this run method, and the main thread continues over here. From here, the main thread continues. So two threads are running parallelly from here. Okay, two threads are running parallelly. One is this one, another is this one. And this main thread will start printing value of I from 0 to 50. So here also, uh, this will run separately. Okay, and try to see what happens. Okay, try to take a screenshot of this. Yes, guys, try to take a screenshot of this program and try to run it out. Okay, try to run this out. Take a screenshot of this. So this is one more program, public class test, and here it says new string builder Java, s1 equal to new string builder Java, s2 is equal to love, s1 dot appends s2. So you are creating an Java object. Java object is being created. Sorry, yes, Java string object is created, which is pointed by s1. Okay, and then you say s2 is equal to love. This again, this object is created, which is of string type. This is of string builder type. This is of string type. Okay. Now we say s1 dot appends s2. So what will happen? This s2 will append it over here. This s2 will append it over here. Will be appended over here. Okay. So the string that will be created is okay. And then so this is the new string that is created, which is pointed by obviously the s1 automatically. And so actually this is the object that gets modified, right? This is the object that gets modified. So just let's say now we don't consider this, we consider it as this one, same object. Okay, not a new object, same object. Then we say s1 dot substring 4. So what happens is a substring is taken out from fourth location in this, and then that again is there inside S1 only. And then when you say S1 dot index of S2, so now you try to find this S2 inside this. What will you get? It will be found at which location? Yes? Any guesses? Where it will be found? Yes, guys? So these are some of the answers. Write it out. These are some of the options. Will it be -1? Will it be 3? Will it be 4? Or string index out of bounds exception is thrown at runtime? Yes? Any guesses what it will do? Yes, guys? You can put it in the chat box. I'm looking at the chat box. Hita is saying D. Okay. Any reason why, Hita, for D? Okay. Well, the answer is C. Answer is C. Okay. See what happens? You create a string called Java. Okay. And then that object gets created. Okay. And then the object called love is created. Right. Which is a string object. One is string builder, another string object. Now we say, now see, this is inside a string pool. Where is it? This is inside a string pool. This thing is called as string pool. Okay. And this string pool inside is inside the heap, which is nothing but the object heap. Okay. And then you have a stack. Right? What do you have? You have a stack where S1 and S2 are there, and S1 prints to the Java and S2 prints to love. Right? Okay. So now what happens when you say S1 appends S2? Okay. Basically, it is out. S1 is to printing to Java, S1 is printing to Java, S2 is to love. Now what happens? Love gets added to it, okay, and then that Java love string is made, which is being pointed by S1, right? But what happens is basically when you say S1 dot appends, check this out. When you say in this line, when you say S1 dot appends S2, obviously this S2 gets appended to Java, that is love gets appended to Java. But when you say S1 dot substring 4, that this line returns something. It is accepted by no variable. So that does not get stored anywhere. When you say substring, it just extracts substring. It does not remove that part of the string. Okay. So that's why when you say S1 dot index S2, this S2 is love, and that love is found at the fourth position. In the string, love is found at the fourth position, and so that's why you get to see the answer as 4. Okay. So I think that's it for the day.